Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am back in the streaming world. This is from the Cheap Seats Wrestling Podcast, here live. Yes, we're live now. Not recorded. Holy crap. I've been on hiatus here lately. We may not be long today. We may go long today. Well, it just depends on how much I spit out this little face of mine in regards to pro wrestling. And like we did before on YouTube, on the recordings, we talk about everybody. The good, the bad, the indifferent, the scuttlebutt on the inside the interweb, wrestling commune. We're also going to give shout outs to fellow podcasts within the community. So if you're a podcast that watches this, listens to this, I'm here for you. Let me know that you hear me. We are on Facebook, on the Twitter, on the YouTube, all at the same title from the Cheap Seats Wrestling Podcast. All right. So to get into a little bit about the business, I am a fan. I am also a combat veteran, 2 tours of Iraq. I enjoy professional wrestling, and I have since I was 3 years old. So since I'm 41 now, that means I've been watching professional wrestling probably, well, I know it twice as long as my daughter has been alive, and probably more than most people. It's not a, hey, look at me kind of statement. That's more of a, this is what's up in regards to my knowledge. I agree. I have had the luxury or the displeasure, depending on what kind of fan you are, to live through WCW, WWE/F, ECW, the emergence of Ring of Honor, TNA, the multiple eras of WWE television, WWF, whatever you want to call it, and the rise and re-rise, I guess you could say, of New Japan Pro Wrestling, from being that profession or that company overseas to, hey, we're right behind WWE as far as being top dogs in regards to historical sentiment within professional wrestling. I am a self-admitted Undertaker, CM Punk, Ric Flair, and Stone Cold Steve Austin fan. I'll even put the one up for the tribal chief, the OTC, Roman Reigns. Getting to start with that. It's been months since I've been on here, and one of the biggest things when I get on here is I used to sit there and recap the shows. We can do recaps. We can add days. But right now, we're just going to talk. We're going to shoot on, whatever comes off my mind for at least the next hour. And one of the things is Bad Blood. The good, the bad. I didn't think Bad Blood was a bad pay-per-view. Not at all. Could there have been better moments? Sure. But we started off with a heater in regards to the Hell in the Cell match. What the Hell in the Cell match should be. The end of a feud. It should be bloody. It should be physical. It should, when those talent leave that ring, they feel every bump, every crash into the cage, every implement and weapon that they utilize on each other. That's how professional wrestling should be in regards to feuds. As Michael Cole said during the broadcast, the cage match at the Omni with Tommy Rich and Buzz Sawyer, one of the most legendary cage matches of all time. And you go onto the YouTube, the WWE Vault. You can probably find it still on the network and on Peacock. but it is as gritty as and graphic as it can be in regards to how they use that cage. And I believe, if I'm that was the predecessor to the War Games cage, the way it was built. Now, War Games cage has evolved to even now have an open top. But I mean, I would love to see the War Games cage have a top again, even if it's not literally sitting right on, Sid Vicious's head or bouncing Brian Pillman's body off of. But it's the little things, the tiny things, the stuff that honestly could bring more back to the historical end of those matches, but we'll see. I love that match. Didn't think Priest and Balor was bad. The Rhea Liv Morgan match was a little bit of a boondoggle, but there was more timing in certain areas and botches, not by Liv Morgan, not by Rhea Ripley, honestly, not by Raquel Rodriguez. And she tried to do what she needed to do to close that match, whether it was disqualification or the intention was to put Liv Morgan over. But on top of that, we're going to go to the main event, and I'm pretty sure I've missed a spot, so forgive me. I'm sure it'll come back to me. I believe it was no. But then you had the main event. Solo Sikoa, Roman Reigns, them facing off each other, but their partners having with Solo Sikoa the new tribal chief, the tribal heir, as you would say. I like it, but I think this is the tip, just barely the end of the spear in regards to where this storyline rolls with the bloodline now. And as we have seen at the end of the match, the end of the pay-per-view or PLE, there Saturday, the final boss, the High Chief, the new High Chief, taking it from his grandfather, Siuri, or as we know him, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It's going to be interesting to see how this all pans out, especially with now the scuttlebutt, the news that Rock may not be available for WrestleMania. So, okay, where does that leave us? Do we get Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes 2? Do we get Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton, and then one true final battle between Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa for the position of Tribal Chief? Who knows? I mean, Royal Rumble's February, and WrestleMania is now mid-April, so there's a lot of moving parts that by the time it's all said and done, it'll sort itself out. Raw. I think Raw was decent for trying to fit in 2 hours. Mind you, they haven't had a 2-hour episode of Monday Night Raw, like a dedicated 2-hour, in over 12 years. So it kind of takes getting used to shrinking the format for Raw as to where, like with SmackDown, whether on Fox, whether on USA, whether on Sci-Fi, if they needed, they had the overrun. Same thing with Raw. Hey, we're giving you the ability to be on for 3 months before you move to Netflix, but we're going to put you in this window. One of the upsides is wrestling, especially in the Central Time Zone, starts at 7, ends at 9. East Coast, 8, 10. West Coast, 5 to 7. So, people are able to do things afterwards or at least get into bed early, get to sleep early for the next day of work or whatever they got to do, school. You have at it. But they'll figure it out before the Netflix move. I mean, maybe they're just gonna steady the ship and just make sure that they run this course between now and January 6th, I believe, on Netflix. Bring that topic up. Netflix. It's been said or discussed amongst those on the internet that about the Peacock WWE extension, add-on, whatever you want to call it, and hoping to see if Netflix will just do what they're doing internationally and pick up the entire WWE library and archive. And then, the difference between Netflix and Peacock is Peacock has to stay within a certain standards and practices. And I'm sure that's the same way too at Netflix, but Netflix is able to take more liability or a little bit more, be a little bit more loose with verbiage. Same thing with what's going on over in AEW. AEW just announced a $185 million a year, with no telling how many years is behind that deal, to remain on TBS, TNT, to have specials on True TV if need be, as well as streaming finally on Max. Streaming on Max is going to help AEW. It may not bring their crowd in, that matches WWE shows. And sometimes it's a little expensive to be a fan of both brands, especially if you want to go to a live event. I've had the luxury, thank God, through VetTix, to be able to go during a just before Christmas version down in Cedar Park, Texas at the HEB Center. Shout out to the HEB Center. It's one of the finest small facilities in regards to hockey, basketball, and just you name it. It's a more intimate space than, say, American Airlines Center, and that's not to diss them, or the Toyota Center down in Houston, or whatever they're calling that now. And the same thing with the Frost Bank Center in San Antonio. Those kinds of arenas allow you to feel the match, to feel the environment. But congratulations to Tony Khan. Also, a belated happy birthday to him. My only gripe with the AEW deal is if you need to extend the bundle options to where you can include these AEW pay-per-views as an included price instead of, hey, we're going to discount them to this amount. Yes, I understand that it needs to be a profit, but with Disney, Hulu, HBO Plus, or Max, and ESPN, I have that bundle. I would not cry if that bundle cost me $54 a month. That means I can watch an AEW pay-per-view anytime I want instead of having to necessarily buy it again. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, believe the start date for at least the streaming of the AEW pay-per-views on Max is set for January or February of this year. And I'm pretty sure their staff, their team there in All Elite Wrestling is going to do fine. Speak further on AEW here lately. And I know other podcasts have said, and I'm going to kind of jump on, be the monkey that jumps on the gorilla's back to further or stomp on the point. With AEW, there is a sizable storyline disconnect between AEW's pay-per-views, which are great, except for World's End last year. AEW does deliver on their pay-per-views. The liberties they take may be something, but in reality, AEW's pay-per-views they rarely miss. They rarely. But their television, and this is what WWE and TNA are good at, and that's the reason why you see the resurgence with TNA. You see the WWE succeeding with houses on both television and not. Is that with WWE, there's storyline continuity. With AEW, as another podcaster, the famous Bully Ray, is wise to always say, if I'm going to eat a steak, I'm going to make sure that I get everything out of said piece of meat. The flavor, the experience, and then the after effect. And I get that people are trying to put a 2-hour show together, and AEW does just fine, especially with the overruns. But the storyline continuity has to become better. Somebody brought up the idea of a brand split. One group goes to Collision and tours, the other goes to Dynamite and tours, and then meets up at the pay-per-views. And it's actually not a bad idea. It gives your talent that sits there and waits for months on end to be the ability to perform instead of, hey, when am I going to call to show up on TV? That is what I see as a fan. And I try to be as unbiased as I possibly can because, yes, I grew up a WWE, WCW, ECW fan. So do I want television? Do I want the ability to watch my TV screen every day and go, you know what? This is what I want to see on AEW. But all I want is a little bit more storyline continuity to their pay-per-views. That when you go from television to pay-per-view back to television, even if you're continuing the storyline, there's continuity. Or if I'm having a match and I'm still in this feud with somebody, this match, a run-in, it makes sense. There's sometimes that some things that happen on AEW that just kind of leave myself, probably a lot of other fans going, what? And that's not a shout out to Stone Cold Steve Austin, but there's a lot of us fans that sit there and go, you know what? Why are we watching this? You have one of the best rosters in the world over there in AEW. I tend to believe that AEW and WWE right now are where the best wrestle, but it's just little tweaks, little things here. Triple H, he's a student of the game. He was a fan before he was a wrestler. He got to sit under the tree of one of the most genius, but also one of the most infamous minds in all of professional wrestling, that being Vincent Kennedy McMahon, or Mr. McMahon, as we now know famously from the Netflix podcast. He's got a feel for timing. Like I said, he's done it as a performer. Now, he has the opportunity to steer and lead along with Shawn Michaels, which, if you told us 25 years ago that lived through the Attitude Era that those two gentlemen would be running WWE, most of us would have laughed at you. They get to have the last laugh at a whole entire generation of fans that were like, and they've done well. Sean and his team down in NXT. Matt Bloom, Sarah D'Amato, William Regal, Robbie Brookside, Norman Smiley, and Steve, the king of hardcore, Steve Corino. They do really well with these talents. And, you know, to think about what NXT is to WWE, we have to go back to the power plant. And the power plant was truly the first stateside, non-independent or non-wrestling school performance center, training center in it. I believe it was Atlanta back in the 90s, where talent would go and do their grind and be raised up. But NXT is taking it to a whole nother level. Now, the upside is this day and age, wrestling schools they try to teach you the right way. You have the Black and the Brave up there in Iowa, Seth Rollins School. You have the Monster Factory, I believe that's in New York. Create a Pro through Brian Myers or Kurt Hawkins, depending on how you know him. Flatbacks, I believe that's Pete Dunne and the Grizzled Young Veterans School. That Tyler Breeze and Sean Spears. I apologize. But the thing about it is, all of these talents that either go to AEW or WWE or Ring of Honor, MLW, TNA, the whole lot, have had their fingers on somebody who has been on the television side of things, i.e. WWE, ECW, TNA, before AEW existed, and now AEW. But schools back then, CM Punk said it on the No Contest podcast with O'Shea Jackson and TJ Fitzgerald. I got a chance to watch it before shooting today. Back then, it is not the same experience that he sees now. He called the PC, and in regards to a professional wrestling that wants to learn the business, he called it Candyland. That CM Punk sees now, hey, there's weight training, diet training, promo class, working on your entrance, being able to, especially with broadcasters and referees, get your timing down on regards to what you're going to do on television with the said talent in the ring. So there's a blessing, and I kid you not when I say this, there's a blessing when it comes to WWE having the Performance Center and, the schools that exist now having the idea. And I mean, even you have the Rhodes Wrestling Academy, not too far down the road from where I'm at here in Central Texas, down there in Liberty Hill. And Dustin's cultivating a third generation of Rhodes. He's also taking some of the best talent in Texas and across country and the world and training them down there in Liberty Hill. So if you're in Texas and you're in the Central Texas, Austin area, and they're throwing a show, go see it. You'll enjoy it. You'll love it. TNA right now, and I'm shooting today. I don't have my run sheet. I usually have one of those things. I'm just shooting today because I promised the kiddo that I go do something, so we're going to stay on pretty close to 3 o'clock today, or within the next 29 minutes. TNA, the resurgence that TNA is seeing right now, along with their partnership with WWE and NXT, I would say that while they're never going to be an AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle, and I could name the old guard from TNA back in the 2002 to 6 era, the AJ Styleses of the world. There is a feel that when you're watching this, and especially being led with the veterans that they do have down there, that can teach some of these younger talent. Okay, here's your timing. Here's where you need to direct your promos. And you got PCO, Pierre Carl Let, I think was his name in WWE. He's if not 60 years old still doing this. But he is benefiting a generation of fans who 30 years ago got to see him with a pirate patch over his eye, long before Paul Burchill. Now, he's this professional wrestling Frankenstein. He looks every bit of the part, but, he's doing it because he loves the business. He's trying to help the business. Santino Marella. Getting to see him and his daughter, Ariana Grace, interact on TNA television is crazy. I was calling on Twitter for hopefully that happening at some of these joint WWE TNA matches that they have on television or at their PLEs. And it's just the little things. Like I said, the interaction between Santino Marella and the fact that Santino Marella was able to keep that name past WWE goes to show that WWE had a lot of respect for the man to allow him to use it on other television. Maybe he has the copyright to the name. Who knows? But it's always good to see Santino Marella on there. But some of the, it's just the little things, and it's not brand or company specific. There's never going to be a perfect show. I'm just going to tell you that right now. There will never be a perfect professional wrestling show. Because if there was, well, and we're all going to hate somewhat of the product, some way, somehow. But ultimately, as long as we get to go have our voice heard, whether through our crowd reaction or the people that are important seeing it on the nice little computer screen, like the one to my right here, it's really not that hard to kind of have a voice, or at least, in what we call this universe, be able to kind of now see it not so much insultingly, but more, okay, they're listening to us. That, these are the talent that we want on the screen. These are the kinds of matches that we want to see. People have been screaming for years for the return of blood, and I understand why they deviated away from blood on screen, or at least tried to avoid it at all costs. Yes, we're a PG company. We're corporately, we're corporately traded, or internationally traded. I get that. I respect that. Can't hate on a company for doing a business that way. But sometimes when you have a Hell in a Cell, an Elimination Chamber, a War Games match, and there's no blood, there's nobody, suffering. As I brought up earlier, Sid Vicious and Brian Pillman. Where in that match, Brian Pillman literally was wrapped up from his rib cage to his shoulder. If I remember correctly, it was the left shoulder that was heavily wrapped as well. So, it's just the small things. It's the small details. And I trust in the people that they have in WWE the veterans they have in AEW, and the veterans and the creative minds that they have in the other companies to get things done. That being said, going on to a topic that was discussed about at a press conference, and that a fellow Hall of Famer had made his opinion known, which I respect both of them because I see it the same way. If I'm worthy of TV time, regardless of what's right here, put me on there. And yes, they cannot put everybody on a card that maybe goes 5-6 matches. It just is the way it is. Now, hey, these talent haven't had matches. Well, we could sit there with every company and go, okay, these talent haven't had matches. Is there something wrong? And he told you flat out, he sees talent. He doesn't see race. He doesn't see orientation or gender. He just sees, hey, where can I plug this on the board? You know, accusations here, or at least Barb's years ago at Tony Khan for the same thing. You know, hey, there isn't much black representation. And this is not to defend NXT or make NXT the, hey, we're doing it here. Sean has a mind for the business as a whole. It's also about the dollar and cents of, let's say, merchandise and TV time and what kind of quarter rating said talent is getting. You know, Bianca Belair could probably be the highest ranked part of the show when she's on. But are people staying tuned in when her and Jade Cargill faces female tag team here? The same thing with Damian Priest. Damian Priest and Finn Balor. Are they bringing in the eyes, the views? And I'm talking about a pasty white Irishman, or close to pasty white Irishman, and a Puerto Rican. You know? Wrestling in 2024, like much of the rest of the world, should not be race-based. But yet we still live in this spot. Now, yes, I am a white man saying this. But, you know, I'm also, outside of my wrestling opinion, a VFW member. And in VFW, the membership that is broad in there is multiple. It's not just men. It's not just women. It's all colors, all orientations, all genders. Because, yes, VFW does have transgendered members. But something that's really not too incredibly necessary in that moment. I just want to see TV, wrestlers on TV, male and female, the whole color spectrum. But I also understand that the business is doing what the business is, because at the bottom line is, hey, who's bringing in us money? Who do we need to feature? What are the ratings here? What are their merchandise sales over here? You know, but yes, talent. You know, Booker T has his own promotion, Reality Wrestling down in Houston. You know, he doesn't book because you're black or white. He books because, hey, can this person draw a house? Can this person put the proverbial butt in a seat? That's, sometimes you have to step away from the, hey, I'm going to make this into a march or a cause to fight for. and kind of also put the promoter hat on and go, you know what? This is how it is. I'm sorry. Yada, yada. You know, if you can't put the promoter glasses on and see it from their eyes, then you don't give yourself a chance to understand professional wrestling as a whole. You know, there is a reason to their madness. When I watch professional wrestling, I see it from a whole. I can watch it kind of go break down the good, the bad, and the indifferent in a match. You know, yeah, I'm not talent, but I've watched it long enough that I can kind of go, oh, damn, it's a hell of a spot, you know, or holy crap, Mick Foley just took a bump, you know, and see it from their eyes, kind of going, okay, I understand why it was booked this way. You know, now if it's grossly horrible, then yes, IWC, you have every right to bark, bitch, moan, complain. But try to see it from who's setting up the match card. You know, WWE has done a good job about taking pre-PLE Friday SmackDowns and putting a PLE or a network special level programming for that Friday prior to everything else. And, you know, maybe AEW to compete with SmackDown may move Collision to Friday. Now it appears that they're going to unask Rampage, and we'll see how the business goes from there. Somebody the other day was talking about Raw should move to Wednesdays to compete with Dynamite. Leave Dynamite, leave Raw alone. Let them be on Monday and Wednesday. Let NXT be on a Tuesday. Let TNA have them their Thursday and Friday shows if they need to. You know, yes, we can all talk semantics about programming and business here, but ultimately, is it really going to solve anything? We don't get paid by these companies. You know, we pay these companies to enjoy their product, whether it be video games, merchandise, just, you know, a house show ticket, which we're not going to get many of those much anymore because they are focusing, thankfully, on the physical welfare and health of a talent. So we gotta kind of get away from this mindset of they're not doing it my way, I'm not going to watch TV, to, okay, I see it why they're doing it this way. I see it why the program is being booked such as it is. You know, that's my sincerest only rant today. But beyond that, you know, enjoy professional wrestling. Enjoy what we get right now. Be thankful that we really don't hear sports entertainment anymore. You know, and that every once in a while, even though we get the medical facility, for every medical facility mentioned, there's always 3 hospital mentions from Michael Cole. Be thankful that we're living in an era where we get Michael Cole and JR on opposite programs when they get to do their work, whether it's consistently like Michael Cole or special moments and matches with Jim Ross. Other than that, like I said, I wasn't really going to go along with this today, but I do appreciate anybody that is watching. Like I said, on the Facebook, the Twitter or X, depending on what you call it, YouTube, subscribe to the From the Cheap Seats Wrestling Podcast. That nice little emblem right there. If you don't see that, look for the boots. and an orange background. That'll be me. Leave a review. Dog me if you need to. But in all honesty, let's enjoy professional wrestling regardless of who we watch. You know, kind of cut out the tribalism and just be a fan. Be proud that we have an industry of people that are getting a paycheck to be able to put their bodies on the line for our entertainment and to be able to do something athletically that not a lot of us in the world can physically do. So, with that being said, this was from the Cheap Seats Wrestling Podcast. My name is Chris Branson. I hope you enjoy your weekend, and I will see you again next Thursday.